I stood by the window, sipping my coffee, watching my 8-month-old daughter, Lily, napping under the Japanese maple tree. The soft May breeze rocked her bassinet, her tiny chest rising and falling peacefully. This moment of calm was everything. I never imagined I'd trade my fast-paced job as a buyer at a high-end New York department store for days filled with diaper changes and lullabies. But here I was, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Still sleeping? I turned to see my husband, Daniel, stepping out of his home office. His dark eyes were tired, but they softened when they landed on me. As an engineer, he was constantly tied up in meetings, even when working from home. But no matter how hectic his schedule, he always made time for us. Yeah, I sighed, leaning into him as he wrapped an arm around my waist. She barely slept last night. I hope she finally gets some rest. You're doing an amazing job, Daniel murmured, pressing a kiss to my temple. Lily's lucky to have you. Warmth spread through me. But before I could respond, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. One glance at the screen and my stomach tightened. Vanessa. Again. Daniel smirked. Still pushing the crib? I sighed, already bracing myself for the conversation. Probably. I swiped to answer. Hey, Vanessa. Ava, have you set up the crib yet? I need to see pictures. You have to post them on Instagram. I rubbed my forehead. Not yet. Lily still prefers the bassinet. Still? Ava, the LuxeDream crib is made for babies 6 months and up. You know it's trending, right? Hollywood moms love it. She lowered her voice, like she was sharing top-secret information. Mom's upset too. She thinks it's a waste that such an expensive gift isn't being used. My grip on the phone tightened. We're just going at our own pace, I said, keeping my voice even. Fine, she huffed. But at least promise you'll try it soon. I forced a smile into my voice. Sure, Vanessa. When I finally hung up, I dropped onto the couch, exhaling. Daniel sat beside me, one brow raised. Same conversation? Same guilt trip, I muttered. Mom and Vanessa act like not using their gift is a personal insult. Family was complicated. My mother, Helen, a retired school principal, cared too much about appearances, and Vanessa followed in her footsteps. As a high-end boutique manager, she lived for trends and social validation. I was the odd one out, the practical one who didn't care about designer labels or curated Instagram aesthetics. Daniel reached for my hand. I got an email from your mom yesterday. They're coming this weekend. I frowned. She didn't tell me that. Maybe they want to see the crib, he teased, but we both knew better. The tension in my shoulders grew. I loved my family, but they never respected my choices. Mom and Vanessa always pushed their version of what was right onto me, and I was expected to go along with it. Before I could spiral further, my phone buzzed again. This time, relief flooded me. Rachel. Hey, I was just about to call you, I said, my voice lighter. What's up? You sound exhausted. My family. They're pressuring me about that crib again. Rachel groaned. The LuxeDream? You're still not using it? I hesitated. Actually, I don't think I ever will. Why not? I'll explain over lunch tomorrow, I said. I just need to talk to someone who won't call me crazy. You got it. Same cafe? Perfect. When I hung up, Daniel studied me. What's really going on with that crib? I swallowed, choosing my words carefully. There's something I need to tell you. Before I could continue, a soft whimper from outside caught our attention. Lily was waking up. Daniel squeezed my hand. We'll talk later. I watched him step outside to scoop Lily into his arms, my chest tightening. I knew I had to confront my family soon, but first, I needed to be sure. Because deep down, I had a terrible feeling about that crib, and I wasn't willing to take any risks when it came to my daughter's safety. The next morning, I woke up to a quiet house. Daniel had already left for work, and Lily was still asleep in her bassinet, her tiny fists curled up near her face. I lingered in bed for a few moments, listening to the soft hum of the ceiling fan, trying to shake off the unease that had settled deep in my chest. Something about that crib didn't sit right with me. After making a cup of coffee, I found myself staring at the unopened LuxeDream box in the corner of the nursery. It was beautiful, sleek white wood, gold accents, the kind of crib you'd see in celebrity nurseries on Instagram. But every time I thought about moving Lily into it, A strange discomfort crept up my spine. I grabbed my phone and typed LuxeDream crib reviews into the search bar. The first results were exactly what I expected, glowing endorsements from influencers. Glossy blog posts raving about its elite design. But something felt off. I scrolled past the polished reviews and dug deeper, searching for real user experiences. Then I saw it. A post buried in a parenting forum. Anyone else's baby reacting badly to the LuxeDream crib? My breath hitched. I clicked on it. The comments section was filled with mothers sharing their experiences: rashes, respiratory issues, sudden nighttime fussiness. Some parents noticed a strong chemical smell coming from the crib, while others had their babies break out in hives within minutes of lying in it. A cold wave of dread washed over me. I jumped up and opened the LuxeDream box. The scent hit me immediately, a sharp synthetic odor, like fresh paint mixed with something stronger. My stomach turned. Lily stirred in her bassinet, letting out a sleepy whimper. I rushed to close the box and stepped back, my heart pounding. I needed to talk to Rachel. The cafe was already busy when I arrived. Rachel was sitting by the window, stirring her iced coffee, her dark curls pulled into a messy bun. She looked up and waved as I slid into the seat across from her. "Okay, Spill," she said. "What's going on?" I took a deep breath. "It's the crib. I have a bad feeling about it." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Because of your family or because of the crib itself?" "Both," I admitted. "But mostly the crib. I found this parenting forum and there were all these posts about babies getting rashes or having trouble breathing after sleeping in it." Rachel frowned. "Did you notice anything weird when you opened it?" "The smell," I said immediately. "It's strong. Chemical." "That's not normal." She pulled out her phone. "Let me check something." I sipped my coffee while Rachel scrolled through pages of information. After a few minutes, she let out a low whistle. "Wow. This brand is all about aesthetics, but safety complaints? Almost non-existent online." "That's sketchy," I nodded. "Exactly. It's like they're scrubbing anything negative." Rachel leaned forward. "Ava, listen. If your gut is telling you something's wrong, don't use it. You don't need an official recall to trust your instincts as a mom." I let out a slow breath, tension draining from my shoulders. "You're right. But what do I tell my family?" Rachel smirked. "That's a whole other battle." That evening, after putting Lily down for the night, I found Daniel in the kitchen. He was sitting at the table, laptop open, typing away. "Hey," I said, pulling out a chair beside him. "Can we talk?" He glanced up and gave me a warm smile. "Of course. What's up?" I hesitated, choosing my words carefully. "It's about the crib." He closed his laptop, giving me his full attention. "What about it?" "I did some research today. There are parents online saying their babies had reactions, rashes, breathing issues. And the smell. Something's off, Daniel. It's really strong, like chemicals." His expression grew serious. "Did you find any official recalls?" "No, but that's what worries me. There should be complaints, but they're buried." "It feels like they're being hidden." Daniel ran a hand through his hair, deep in thought. "All right, let's test this ourselves." I followed him as he carefully unboxed the crib, running his fingers over the smooth wood. "It does have a strong smell," he admitted. "Like fresh varnish." I grabbed one of Lily's small blankets and laid it inside the crib. "Let's see how she reacts." Gently, the first picked up Lily and placed her inside. At first, she seemed fine, but within seconds, she squirmed, rubbing at her face. Then, she let out a small cough. My heart sank. Daniel watched as her skin turned slightly red where it touched the mattress. His jaw tightened. "Okay, that's not normal." I scooped Lily up, rocking her gently. Within minutes, the redness faded, and she calmed down. Daniel exhaled. "We're not using this crib." Relief flooded me. "Thank you. But your family's coming this weekend," he reminded me. "How do you want to handle it?" I pressed my lips together. "I'll tell them the truth, but I doubt they'll take it well." He reached for my hand. "Then we stand firm together." I looked at him, gratitude swelling in my chest. "We're a team." Daniel smiled. "Always." But as I rocked Lily in my arms, a sinking feeling told me that the real battle hadn't even started yet. The weekend arrived too soon. By the time I finished setting the table for lunch, my stomach was already in knots. My parents and Vanessa would be here any minute, and I knew exactly how this was going to go. Mom would take one look at the crib, raise an eyebrow, and launch into a monologue about gratitude and social expectations. Vanessa would scoff, maybe roll her eyes, and make a snide remark about how I was being difficult again. Daniel had been helping in the kitchen, but when he noticed my tense expression, he leaned against the counter and crossed his arms. "You sure you want to do this today?" I nodded. "They'll notice the crib isn't set up the second they walk in. Might as well get it over with." He exhaled. "Whatever happens, I'm on your side." Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. I took a deep breath, wiped my hands on my jeans, and opened the door. My mother swept in first, her floral perfume filling the air. "Ava, darling." "Oh, it's been too long." She kissed my cheek before immediately looking around. My father followed, quiet as always, offering me a gentle smile. Then Vanessa walked in, oversized sunglasses perched on her head, clutching a shopping bag from some expensive boutique. She barely glanced at me before scanning the room. And there it was. The moment Vanessa's eyes landed on the bassinet instead of the LuxeDream crib, her lips pressed into a tight line. "Where's the crib?" Straight to the point. Mom turned, her brows knitting together. "Yes, Ava." I was looking forward to seeing it all set up. I squared my shoulders. "We're not using it." The air in the room shifted. Mom blinked. "Excuse me?" Daniel came to stand beside me, his presence grounding me. I took a breath and explained everything: the strong chemical smell, the parents' complaints online, Lily's reaction when we put her in it. Vanessa scoffed. "Oh my God, Ava, that's ridiculous. Thousands of people use that crib, and you're freaking out over some mom forum paranoia?" I clenched my jaw. I watched my daughter break out in a rash the second she touched it. "That's not paranoia." Mom sighed, already looking exhausted. "Ava, I understand being protective, but don't you think you're overreacting? Everything these days has chemicals in it. When you were a baby, we didn't obsess over every little thing." "That's exactly the problem," I shot back. "We know more now. We know what's harmful." "Why would I ignore that?" Dad finally spoke up. "If there's a chance it's unsafe, maybe Ava's right to be cautious." Mom turned to him, exasperated. "Oh, not you too, Thomas." I crossed my arms. "This isn't about defying you or rejecting your gift. It's about Lily's health. I appreciate that you all pitched in to get it, but I'm not putting my daughter in something that could make her sick." Vanessa shook her head. "You're embarrassing yourself. Do you know how much that crib costs? And you're throwing it away because of a few internet rumors?" Daniel's voice was calm but firm. "It's not about the money, it's about safety. If you saw what happened when Lily touched that crib, you wouldn't be questioning this." Mom pinched the bridge of her nose. "So, what do you expect us to do, Ava? Just accept that you're rejecting our gift?" "Yes," I said plainly, "because my child's well-being is more important than your feelings." A tense silence stretched between us. Vanessa scoffed. "Unbelievable." Dad, however, nodded slowly. "If that's your decision, Ava, then that's that." Mom looked between us, still fuming, but she didn't argue further. Instead, she turned sharply toward the dining table. "Let's just eat." The conversation was over, but I knew this wasn't the end of it. That night, after everyone left, I sat on the couch, drained. Daniel sat beside me, rubbing his thumb over my knuckles. "That could have gone worse," he offered. I laughed dryly. Could have gone better, too. At that moment, my phone buzzed. "Vanessa." I sighed and opened the message. "Vanessa, Mom's really upset. I still think you're being ridiculous, but whatever. At least try to sell the crib instead of wasting it." I exhaled. It was the closest thing to a truce I was going to get. The next morning, I woke up to another message. This one wasn't from Vanessa. It was an email from an unknown sender. Subject: LuxeDream crib safety issues frowning. I clicked on it. "Hi, Ava. I saw your post in the parenting forum. I work in product testing and have looked into LuxeDream before. I thought you should know there's more to this than just a bad smell. Let me know if you want to talk." My pulse quickened. I forwarded the email to Daniel, then dialed Rachel. The moment she picked up, I said, "I think we just uncovered something bigger." I stared at the email, my heart pounding. Rachel's voice crackled through the speaker. "Wait, someone reached out to you." "Yeah," I said, scanning the message again. "They claim to have tested the LuxeDream crib before. Said there more to this than a bad smell. That's..." Sketchy, Rachel muttered. Did they give their name? I scrolled down. Just an initial, J. No company info, nothing else. Daniel, who had just walked in, leaned over my shoulder. Sounds like someone who knows more than they're supposed to. I nodded. I think I should reply. Rachel hesitated. Be careful. If this is legit, it means they don't want this information out there. A chill ran through me, but I wasn't backing down. I quickly typed a response. Hi, Jay. I'd like to know what you found. My daughter had a reaction to the crib, and I'm looking for answers. I hit send. Daniel rubbed his jaw. If this person has real information, we should be ready for whatever comes next. I gave him a small, grateful smile. I know. Now we waited. Later that evening, while Daniel put Lily to bed, my phone pinged with a new email. Subject. It's worse than you think. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Ava. I worked for a third-party testing lab that LuxeDream used before launching their latest model. Officially, the crib passed safety regulations. Unofficially, there were issues that were ignored. The wood treatment contains high levels of formaldehyde, far beyond the recommended safe limits. It causes skin irritation, respiratory issues, and long-term exposure can have serious effects. We flagged it, but LuxeDream pushed the product through anyway. They have connections. They pay for silence. The reason you're not seeing complaints? They threaten and settle with parents who report problems. If you try to go public, be prepared. They will try to shut you down. I left the company months ago, but I couldn't forget. I saw your post and had to warn you. Jay. My breath caught in my throat. I reread the email, each word sinking in like lead. My worst fears had been confirmed. Daniel walked in just as I put my phone down. He took one look at my face. What happened? Wordlessly, I handed him the phone. As he read, his expression darkened. They knew. They knew it was unsafe and still sold it. I nodded, my stomach churning. And they're covering it up. Daniel set the phone down carefully, his jaw tight. We need to do something. I swallowed hard. If they've silenced people before, what makes us any different? His eyes met mine, steady and sure. Because we won't be quiet. The next morning, I called Rachel. We need to meet. We gathered at a cafe, away from our usual spot just in case. Rachel had already filled in her friend Natalie, a journalist who covered consumer safety issues. Natalie wasted no time. This is big. She scrolled through the email on my phone, her brows furrowing. If this testing lab really found violations, LuxeDream could be in serious trouble. Rachel leaned forward. How do we make this public without getting crushed? Natalie tapped her fingers on the table. We need solid evidence. A formal statement from someone inside the company would be ideal, but even without that, test results would hold weight. Daniel nodded. I know someone, a friend from college, David. He's a pediatrician with connections in medical research. If we send in a sample of the crib material, he could get it tested properly. Natalie's eyes lit up. That's exactly what we need, I exhaled. Okay, let's do it. That night, Daniel carefully scraped a sample from the crib's wood and padding, sealing it in a sterile container. We overnighted it to David's lab. The waiting game began. In the meantime, I started drafting a post for social media. If LuxeDream was silencing people, I needed to be careful with my wording. Instead of directly accusing them, I framed it as a concern. Has anyone else noticed strange chemical smells from the LuxeDream crib? My baby had a reaction, and I'm trying to find out if other parents have experienced the same thing. DM me if you have. Within hours, my inbox was flooded. Mothers from different states messaged me. My son got red bumps all over his back, but the doctor said it was just a mild reaction. Now I'm wondering if it was the crib. I had to return mine. The smell gave my baby a cough. They refused to refund me at first. I posted about this last year, and my comments disappeared. Be careful. My skin prickled. This wasn't just a few isolated cases, this was a pattern. That night, another message came in. This time, it wasn't from a mother. It was from LuxeDream's legal department. Subject: defamatory claims against LuxeDream products, Miss Carter. We have been made aware of your recent social media post regarding our LuxeDream crib. Spreading false and misleading information about our products constitutes defamation and business interference. We strongly advise you to remove your statements immediately. Failure to do so may result in legal action. LuxeDream Legal Team 1 stared at the email, anger bubbling beneath my fear. Daniel read it over my shoulder. "They're trying to scare you." I clenched my fists. "It's working." Rachel texted at that exact moment. "They sent you a legal threat, didn't they?" "Me?" "Yeah." "How did you know?" "Rachel, because someone just deleted your post." I jumped onto my profile. It was gone. Not just the post, every comment, every discussion thread. "Like it never existed," Natalie called a second later. "Ava, listen to me. Do not back down." This is exactly what they do, silencing parents before the truth spreads. But now we know for sure. They're scared. That means we keep going. My hands shook, but I nodded. We fight back. Daniel took my hand. "Then let's do it the right way." The next morning, David sent his report. High levels of formaldehyde, banned flame retardants, unsafe adhesive compounds. The LuxeDream crib wasn't just unsafe, it was dangerous. David's report sat open on our kitchen table, undeniable proof that the LuxeDream crib was unsafe. I ran my fingers over the printed results, my stomach twisting. High levels of formaldehyde, toxic flame retardants, materials that should never be near a child. Daniel stood beside me, arms crossed, his jaw tight. "This isn't just about us anymore. Other babies are at risk." I nodded, swallowing hard. "We need to go public." Rachel and Natalie arrived minutes later. Natalie scanned the report, shaking her head. "This is worse than I expected. If LuxeDream's been getting away with this for years, there could be thousands of parents out there with no idea." Rachel leaned forward. "So, what's our move?" Natalie tapped her pen against the table. "We go wide. News outlets, parenting forums, consumer safety organizations. If LuxeDream is trying to silence people, we make sure the truth is too big to erase." Daniel exhaled. "They'll come after us harder." "I know," I said, pressing my palms against the table. "But if we stay quiet, more kids could get sick." Natalie nodded. "Then let's make noise." We started by submitting David's findings to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Natalie contacted her media connections, while Rachel and I reached out to every parent who had messaged me. Within hours, the post went viral. Mothers, fathers, caregivers all sharing similar experiences. Pictures of babies with unexplained rashes. Stories of doctors brushing off respiratory issues. People who had tried to complain, only to be ignored or silenced. The truth was spreading. Then, the pushback started. LuxeDream released a statement calling the claims misleading and unverified. Their social media pages flooded with paid influencers defending the product. Some parents who had spoken out suddenly went silent. Others messaged me privately, terrified after receiving legal threats. And then an anonymous number texted me. "Unknown, you should stop now before you regret it." I stared at the message, my blood running cold. Daniel was beside me in an instant. "What is it?" I handed him my phone. His expression darkened. "That's not just a threat. That's a warning." Rachel looked furious. "They think they can scare you into silence?" "Screw that." Natalie agreed. "This only proves we're getting too close. Keep going." But that night, something worse happened. When I went to log into my social media accounts, they were gone. Deleted. Not just my posts, all of it. My account no longer existed. Panic gripped my chest. I grabbed my phone and checked my email. "LuxeDream Legal Department, your online activity has violated our terms of service and constitutes defamation. Consider this your final warning." I sank onto the couch, my hands shaking. They weren't just threatening me, they were erasing me. Daniel knelt in front of me. "We're not stopping." I looked at him, my breath unsteady. "They just wiped out everything, every message, every story." "What if they go further?" He took my hands. "Then we go further too." The next morning, Natalie's article dropped. Luxury or liability? The dangerous truth about LuxeDream's cribs. She laid it all out. David's findings, the buried complaints, the legal intimidation. The story spread like wildfire. Parents flooded consumer watchdog sites, demanding recalls. Major news networks picked it up. LuxeDream scrambled. Their PR team issued a polished denial, but it was too late. Public pressure mounted. Officials announced an investigation. And then Vanessa called. I hesitated before answering. Hello? Ava, she said, her voice tight. What the hell did you do? I exhaled. I told the truth. You're everywhere. Mom is freaking out. Do you know what this looks like? It looks like I stopped a company from poisoning babies. She scoffed. Oh, come on, you made it a media circus. I gritted my teeth. Are you seriously more worried about appearances than children's safety? Silence. Then, a softer voice. I didn't think it was real. I closed my eyes, exhaustion settling deep in my bones. It is. And that crib you were so excited about, it could have hurt Lily. Think about that. She didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet. What do you need me to do? I blinked. What? She sighed. I know people. Influencers, store managers. If I pull some strings, I can get LuxeDream pulled from shelves faster than the investigation will. I hadn't expected that. For the first time in a long time, Vanessa was on my side. I swallowed the lump in my throat. That would help. A lot. Then I'll do it, she said. And I'm sorry, I didn't respond right away. Instead, I whispered, thank you. Days later, LuxeDream announced a voluntary recall. They still denied wrongdoing, but they pulled their cribs off the market. Consumer safety agencies confirmed the findings. Parents filed lawsuits. And then, something I never expected happened. My mom called. I hesitated before picking up. Hi, Mom. A pause. Then, a deep breath. I was wrong. I blinked. What? I was wrong, she repeated. About the crib. About you. About all of it. I sat down, pressing a hand to my forehead. Mom, I was so caught up in what looked right, I didn't think about what was actually right, she admitted. You protected Lily. That's what matters. Tears pricked my eyes. That's all I ever wanted. She sniffed. I know. A pause. Can we come over this weekend? Just to see you? I smiled, wiping my eyes. Yeah, Mom, I'd like that. That night, as Daniel and I sat on the porch, the weight in my chest finally lifted. It's over, I whispered. Daniel squeezed my hand. You did it. We did it. Inside, Lily slept peacefully in a crib that wouldn't harm her. And for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully too. A week after the LuxeDream recall, life finally began to feel normal again. No more legal threats. No more messages from scared parents. No more waking up in a cold sweat, wondering what might happen next. But even with the battle won, the scars remained. Daniel and I sat in the nursery one evening, watching Lily sleep. She looked so peaceful, curled up in her new crib, the one we had chosen, the one we knew was safe. I still can't believe it's over, I whispered. Daniel exhaled. Me neither, he glanced at me. But I'm proud of you. I leaned my head against his shoulder. I couldn't have done it alone. He kissed the top of my head. You didn't have to. For the first time in weeks, I felt truly at peace. The weekend came, and with it, my parents. Mom and Dad arrived early, carrying bags of groceries like nothing had happened. I half expected Mom to launch into small talk, to avoid mentioning the storm we had just survived. But as soon as she stepped inside, she reached for my hands. I should have believed you from the start, she said softly. I searched her face, waiting for the usual defensiveness, the need to justify herself. But there was none. She really meant it. I swallowed past the lump in my throat. I'm just glad you're here. Dad patted my shoulder. You did the right thing, Ava. We're proud of you. Tears welled in my eyes. Thank you. Mom turned toward Lily, who was sitting in her high chair, babbling happily. Can I hold her? I nodded. Of course. She scooped Lily up and held her close, pressing a kiss to her tiny forehead. My beautiful girl. For the first time in a long time, I saw my mother for who she really was, not the woman obsessed with appearances, but a grandmother who loved her family. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Vanessa showed up later that afternoon, looking uncharacteristically nervous. I brought something, she said, holding up a small wrapped package. I arched an eyebrow. If it's another crib, I swear, she laughed, shaking her head. No, just open it. I tore the paper carefully, revealing a small wooden plaque, hand-carved, with Lily's name engraved in delicate cursive. I ran my fingers over it. Vanessa, she shrugged, suddenly shy. I thought you could hang it over her crib. Her real crib. Emotion swelled in my chest. It's perfect. She shifted on her feet. So, are we good? I nodded. Yeah, we're good. And for the first time in years, I meant it. As the sun set, Daniel and I sat outside, watching the sky turn shades of orange and pink. Do you regret it? He asked quietly. I glanced at him. Regret what? Fighting back. I looked down at my hands, remembering every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, every fear that I was making the wrong choice. Then I thought of Lily, of the parents who had reached out, of the babies who would never have to sleep in a toxic crib. No, I said, my voice steady. I'd do it all over again. Daniel smiled. That's why I love you. I leaned against him, breathing in the cool evening air. What now? He squeezed my hand. Now we live. Inside, Lily giggled, her tiny voice filling our home with warmth. And for the first time in a long time, the future felt bright. Story 2. The flat was dark. Judith Williams was packed her bag with her final few items of clothing. Her family recognized her as a typical office worker, and the morning sun shining through the window lit up her weary face. She actually had a lot under that facade. She sighed deeply as she looked at the family portrait on the wall of the living room. George, her father, stood with pride. Her sister Cindy grinned brightly, and her mother Martha smiled elegantly. Judith herself was standing at the edge, her face usually seeming a little disinterested. Must I really leave? Judith whispered in her own ear. Family getaway. Her heart was filled with complex feelings just hearing those words. Her sister Cindy's academic performance, relationships, employment, and issues have dominated the Williams family's discussions for the last 20 years. Martha's name came up on the screen when the phone rang. After a moment of hesitation, Judith picked her up. Are you prepared? In half an hour, I'll be there to pick you up. The tone of her mother's voice was rushed as usual. Yes, Mother, I'm nearly prepared. Remember that Cindy claimed to have discovered a new shop in Las Vegas. Therefore, be sure to pack something elegant to wear. Judith inhaled deeply and closed her eyes. Naturally. Additionally, make sure your wallet is prepared. It wouldn't hurt to occasionally treat your sister to a little luxury because you're always so thrifty. Would it? Judith gazed over her bank account in silence, equilibrium. I get it, Mom. She hung up and went to her study to open a secret cabinet. Documents were placed neatly within. She didn't show her relatives. Real estate deeds, stock certificates from well-known firms, and a certificate attesting to her founding status of Connect Life. Her app, which is utilized by millions worldwide. Judith's cheeks lit up with resentment. Her family was unaware of her true level of achievement. They viewed Judith as a typical office worker who lacked her sister Cindy's glamour. Cindy had been the center of her parents' attention since she was a little child. Cindy was radiant. She had a great grin, was outgoing, and was skilled at sports. Judith, on the other hand, was reticent. Often referred to as odd by her family, she is deeply involved in the realm of computers and programming. Cindy's parents planned a lavish celebration when she graduated from high school and was awarded a scholarship to the nearby university. However, Judith was only informed after she received a full scholarship at MIT. You were always studying, of course. Judith created her own software after graduating from college, and a large business purchased it. Overnight, she became a billionaire. However, she kept her accomplishment a secret from her family because she wanted them to see how valuable she was. Not financially, but as Judith, the individual. She shut her suitcase. Judith's gaze was fixed on the window. She cherished her sister and parents. There was no denying that. For this reason, she had helped her parents with their health insurance and covertly paid off her sister's college debt. They were unaware that Judith had also provided funding for Cindy's lavish graduation trip. Deep down, though, she always felt uneasy and lonely. She was constantly pushed to the sidelines at family get-togethers. Important choices were always taken without consulting her, and she was rarely solicited for her input. When the doorbell rang, Judith snapped out of her reverie. She checked that all of the room's crucial papers were securely buried, only providing proof of her typical life. We're getting late, Judith. From the other side of the door came Martha's voice. Judith took up her luggage with a last sigh. She was still unable to envision how her life would be altered by her trip to Las Vegas. Complex emotions, a strong love for her family, a year-long desperate need for recognition, and a little but tenacious hope that anything would change on this journey were all entangled in her heart. Cindy and her parents waved from the car as she opened the front door. Cindy donned big sunglasses and carried a high-end purse over her shoulder. "Las Vegas is waiting, so hurry up." Cindy waved her hand and yelled. Grinning, Judith carried her bulky luggage to the vehicle. The night in Las Vegas was noisy and full of flashing lights. In the glitzy setting of the Saints Hotel and gambling, Judith felt uncomfortable standing on the gambling floor. In their own ways, her family was having fun. While Mother Martha and her sister Cindy screamed every time she pulled the lever of a slot machine, Father George sat at the poker table, meticulously inspecting his cards. She had staked a claim at the roulette table, making ostentatious motions as she placed chips. Her eyes shone with a passion for success, and her cheeks flushed with enthusiasm. Red 36. Cindy pushed another stack of chips onto the table and yelled. The table was filled with an anxious quiet as the roulette ball rolled. Black 17 was where the ball landed. "Come on, please." Frustrated, Cindy kicked her chair. "I was quite near." Judith watched her sister silently. Cindy must have lost more than $1,000 just tonight. She didn't appear to be giving up, though. "Why don't you wager on Martha, Judith?" contacted her daughter. "Just observing must be dull, isn't it?" "Mom, I don't want to gamble," Judith said gently. "Just watching is entertaining enough for me." Martha gave a shrug. "That's how you're always. So indifferent to everything?" Cindy rose from the table and started to approach the family at that point. She looked anxious. "Can I talk to you, Mom or Dad?" Cindy's voice was low. "Do you have any more money to lend me?" George scowled. "I just gave you some a second ago, Cindy." "However, I have a gut feeling that I will prevail this time." Cindy begged frantically. "The system is now visible to me." Martha discreetly nodded as she glanced at George. With a groan, George pulled out his wallet, but when he peered inside, he scowled. "I'm afraid I'm out of money," I said, George said. "We must visit an ATM." "Judith." Martha turned abruptly. "Don't you have money? You must have some extra because you're continuously saving." Judith gave her mother a startled look. "What are you saying, Mom? You should give Cindy a loan." Martha's words were matter of fact. "Since we are related, we ought to support one another." For an instant, Judith could not speak. She had enough of money, no doubt, but money was not the problem. "Cindy," Judith turned to face her sister. "Have you not enjoyed yourself enough today? Tomorrow is our entire day. How about we end the day?" Cindy's face grew serious. "What are you aware of?" "I am on the verge of winning the lottery. There's no assurance that you'll prevail," Judith said coolly. "Playing within your means is advisable." "Within my budget?" Cindy spoke louder. "You're constantly attempting to stop me. You two need to relax." George stepped in. "Why are you unable to assist your sister, Judith? It is only a couple of $100. "The number isn't the problem, Dad," Judith said softly. "Cindy has to learn how to behave appropriately, in my opinion." "You." Martha's voice became more elevated. "You never give the family any thought." Cindy was so excited about this that she noticed the casino patrons surrounding them were beginning to look away. George implored the family, "Come on, let's discuss outdoors, not in this place." The four of them left the casino and made their way to the hotel parking lot. Their hot cheeks were cooled by the night wind, but the strain persisted. They climbed into George's car, and as the motor began, a thick stillness fell over them. The vehicle headed into the peaceful desert, away from the glittering lights of Las Vegas. "Your attitude is incomprehensible to me." The extended stillness was broken by Martha's words. "But you've always been on our minds." As she responded, Judith gazed out the window. "Really? Hasn't Cindy always been the top priority?" "It was necessary for Cindy." Martha spoke louder. "You've only ever considered yourself just about me." Judith's tone faltered. "I have." She swallowed what she had spoken. Now was not the moment to be honest with them. Not quite yet. "Take a look." Martha gestured to Cindy. "Look at your sister's pain." Cindy did have tears in her eyes, but Judith knew they weren't real. She had witnessed this act several times. "Enough," Judith murmured wearily. There's no need in continuing the argument. I won't give Cindy a loan so she may gamble. Martha's face broke into a sinister smile. Then maybe we ought to force you to think about this, before Judith realized her mother's meaning. Abruptly, George drew the vehicle to the shoulder. A lonely desert road. For miles around, nothing. What are you doing, Dad? Judith inquired nervously. Leave now, George said in a chilly tone. What? Leave now, George said it again. It looks like you need some time to reflect. I take it you're kidding? Judith gazed incredulously at her parents. This is a remote location, Martha said icily. You have your cell phone. You should be able to find your way back because you're so intelligent. Judith could not speak. She was incredulous that this was actually taking place. But she had to face the truth after witnessing her mother's resolute demeanor and her father's icy look. She opened the door and stepped out of the car with shaking hands. Her sneakers crunched on the gravel. Cindy grinned triumphantly as she rolled down the window. Have fun while you're surviving. The vehicle resumed its journey on the highway as the engine screamed. As the taillights faded, Judith stood still. For the first time, she felt totally alone as the desert stillness engulfed her. She let hot tears fall down her cheeks. The people she had always loved and covertly supported were her family. In the desert, they had abandoned her. However, after a few minutes, Judith's face altered. No more tears fell. Rather, a gleam of resolve illuminated her gaze. After pulling out her phone, she looked through her contact list. There's no need to tolerate this any longer, she whispered softly. It's time for me to be myself. She pressed a button and dialed. The phone rang 3 times before connecting. Jake. Judith Williams is this person. There was confidence in her voice. There is an urgent situation. Is it possible to immediately schedule an Escalade from the Las Vegas branch? Indeed, completely furnished. I will also require that specific suitcase. Like the stars in the arid sky. The headlights came up behind them. Judith took a seat on a little rock, calmly waiting. The terror of before was gone, and now her heart was filled with peaceful determination. In front of her, a black Cadillac Escalade slid to a stop. Wearing a spotless suit, the man who got out of the driver's seat lowered his head in deference. I'm sorry it took so long. Jake, thank you. You were quicker than I expected, said Judith, getting to her feet and sweeping away the sand. I arrived as quickly as possible and gave it maximum consideration. Jake pulled a black luggage out of the back door. Everything is ready as directed. With a silent nod, Judith took the suitcase. I will transform. Are you going to wait in the car? After a few minutes, Judith came back to the car with a totally changed appearance. A well-tailored Chanel suit took the place of the inexpensive casual attire. A delicate yet classy diamond necklace glistened around her neck, and her hair was fashioned in a chic updo. And her face had transformed. The reluctant sister's shadow had vanished. It was replaced with a prosperous lady who exuded unflinching confidence. She said in a quiet but firm voice, "Please go to the Bellagio," as the Cadillac sailed away. In her head, Judith gazed out the window into the darkness. The last few years passed in a montage-like fashion. Her MIT degree in computer science, the widely popular Connect Life app, and the app development she had studied by herself in a corner of her flat. Her invention was featured on smartphones all over the world, bringing in tens of billions of dollars for the company. The Las Vegas lights drew closer. Judith pulled out a tiny mirror to examine her appearance. She told herself, "I'm ready. You no longer have to hide." The doorman opened the car door for her when she got to the Bellagio. "Miss Williams, welcome back," the doorman said courteously. "Please use the VIP entrance as usual." With a silent nod, Judith went into the casino. She was recognized by the hotel staff, who looked at her with respect. She was among the few patrons who had a Bellagio the 6th room. Williams, CEO. "Richard, how are you feeling this evening?" The manager of the casino came over to her. "Richard, good evening." Judith gave a soft smile. "This evening will be unique. The building contains my family. I'm trying to find them. Naturally." "Allow me to assist you," Richard responded right away. "How many people are there?" 3. "My mom, dad, and sister," Judith clarified. Most likely, they are located on the main floor. After Richard gave some quick instructions, the staff got to work. The location of the family was established a few minutes later. They were on the main floor of the casino. Cindy was still losing, and her parents were standing next to her, looking exhausted. "We located them," Richard said. "Shall I escort you?" Judith thought for a moment and shook her head. "No, I'll go alone. But could you watch from a distance and come immediately when I signal?" Richard nodded. "I get it." Judith began to slowly cross the casino floor. The sound of her expensive high heels on the floor seemed to demonstrate her firm resolve as she approached. People around noticed her and gave respectful glances. Some whispered, "Isn't that the founder of Connect Life?" Finally, she stood behind her family. It was the moment when Cindy had just met her last chip and lost again. "It's hopeless." Cindy slumped over the table. "I've lost everything. It's okay. We'll think about it tomorrow," Martha said in a tired voice. "Let's get some rest tonight. It's Judith's fault." Cindy suddenly raised her voice. "If she had helped me, this wouldn't have happened." "Calm down, Cindy," George said quietly. "It's too late now. Judith has probably already returned to the hotel. We'll talk to her tomorrow." "I wonder how she got back," Martha frowned. "Did she call a taxi?" There was no need for that. The three turned around in surprise. Standing there was someone completely different from the Judith they knew, dressed in an elegant suit, looking down at them with a confident expression. Judith," George said in disbelief. "Good evening, Dad." "Mom! Cindy!" Judith replied calmly. The return from the desert was comfortable. "You? How?" Martha asked in a breathless voice. At that moment, Richard approached their table. "Williams, CEO, is everything all right?" he asked respectfully. "Is there anything I can help you with?" The blood drained from Martha and George's faces. Cindy's mouth hung open. "Thank you, Richard," Judith answered calmly. "I've just found my family. Could you prepare the VIP lounge? We need a private conversation." "Naturally. I'll have it ready immediately." Richard nodded and left to give instructions. The three family members stared at her, speechless. Cindy was the first to speak. "CEO, you. What kind of joke is this?" Judith smiled slightly. "It's not a joke, Cindy. We have a lot to talk about." "But you're just an ordinary office worker," George stammered. "No, Dad, I am the founder and CEO of Connect Life," Judith answered quietly. "Connect Life?" Martha's eyes widened. The app used all over the world. Cindy suddenly took out her smartphone and stared at the screen. There was indeed the Connect Life icon. An app she used every day? "This is unbelievable," Cindy said in a trembling voice. "The VIP lounge is ready," Richard returned. "Shall I escort you?" Judith looked at her family and nodded quietly. "Please do. We need to have a family discussion." As they stood up and headed toward the VIP area, casino guests sent curious glances their way. The staff showed respect to Judith, bowing their heads as she passed. "It's time to talk about everything," Judith said as they walked down the hallway. "Would you come to my office?" In the thick hush, the three nodded wordlessly. Their features conveyed astonishment, surprise, and a tinge of terror. The trek to the VIP office on the top level of the Bellagio felt forever for the family. No one talked in the elevator, and the three crowded close, keeping their distance from the corner where Judith stood there. Expressions mingled perplexity, dread, and a hint of remorse. Advancing down a corridor with marble floors, they halted in front of a door with a gold plate etched. Williams as Judith flashed her keycard. The door opened softly. "Please." She gestured to her family as they walked inside. They gasped from the wide windows. The Las Vegas night vista spread before them. Its beautiful lights softly illuminate the entire place. The walls were covered with countless trophies and diplomas, and in the center, a framed magazine cover with Person of the Year printed on it. The individual in the photo was obviously Judith. "Is this real?" Martha's voice was shaking as she asked. "Take a seat." Judith gestured towards the couch in the lobby. "I'll tell you everything." The trio took a seat. Judith proceeded to the bar counter and filled 4 glasses with scotch. After sharing the drinks, she eventually grabbed one for herself. "Let's toast." Raising her glass a little towards the truth, she spoke softly. Each of the 4 took a sip in quiet. Cindy winced, but her parents made a valiant effort to remain calm. I created the Connect Life app 10 years ago. Judith started out softly. It started off as a straightforward tool to help individuals communicate more effectively, but it soon gained international use. It was purchased by a large IT business 2 years later, and I consented to the transaction on the understanding that I would continue to serve as CEO. However, why didn't you inform us? George inquired, perplexed about such success. Why? Did I not tell you? Setting down her drink, Judith moved in the direction of the window. Dad, that's a complicated response. Looking at the city lights in college, she went on. I was in a relationship. When he found out that I had been awarded a scholarship at MIT, suddenly, he showed interest in me. Additionally, he scammed me of a substantial amount of money by promising to invest when my software initially began to acquire popularity. She turned around to see her relatives holding their breath while looking at her. And many individuals came to me for my money or status when I became successful. Not many people knew who I really was. We are family, though, Martha objected. Really? Judith said in a chilly tone. Have I ever received familial treatment? Have you ever congratulated me on my accomplishment? Have you ever supported me during significant life events? The three could not think of anything to say, gazing at the ground. That's not all, though. Judith's voice became a little softer. I wanted you to be self-sufficient, Cindy. I wanted you to be independent and successful. Without the difficulties I encountered. Cindy's eyes filled with tears. However, I covered your tuition, Judith confessed in private. In reality, the scholarship you believed you had received came from a fund I had set up in secret. What? Cindy let out a gasp. Your rent subsidies, your flat, your car, and your health insurance. I've been behind the scenes helping with all of it. Cindy's face drained of blood. But Mom and Dad. Judith glanced at Martha and George. They were aware. At least they were aware of my backing. However, we were unaware that it came from your business. George stumbled. Is it accurate? Cindy looked at her parents. Both of you are aware? With a regretful look on her face, Martha nodded. However, we intended to boost your self-esteem. We reasoned that you wouldn't put in much effort if you knew Judith was paying. You kept me blind then. Anger made Cindy's voice waver, acting as though I'm a child. We were mistaken, George said in a weary tone. Both of us. The room was filled with a thick quiet. Judith walked to a drawer on her desk and pulled out an old picture. It was a photo taken on Cindy's high school graduation day. Do you recall the day she gave Cindy the picture? You were the first person in the family to attend college, according to everyone. Cindy, however, spoke incoherently. Did you attend MIT? Yes, but nobody gave a damn. Judith gave a pitiful grin. Cindy consistently eclipsed my accomplishments and grades. Parental affection, pay attention. It was all aimed at you. Martha put her hands over her face. We are aware of the horrible things we have done. Money wasn't what I truly desired. Judith's voice wavered a bit. It was acknowledgement. Only Cindy had been looking at her phone. She seemed to realize something as she glanced up abruptly. Hold on. I have this app on my phone. She gestured to the symbol for Connect Life. Is this yours? Judith gave a nod. It is used by more than 2 billion people globally. Incredibly so, Cindy whispered. My sister. George abruptly got to his feet and knelt down in front of Judith. His eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Judith, his voice faltered. As a father, I was unable to recognize his words and failed to have a daughter of that caliber to be proud of. Martha started crying. How stupid we were. Because of our prejudices and expectations, we caused you to suffer. Cindy got up slowly and walked up to her sister. I apologize. Her speech was stuttering. You were the one I should have looked up to, yet I constantly denigrated you. Judith's expression gradually started to deteriorate. It was the time when she finally let go of feelings she had repressed for years. She said gently, I wasn't flawless either. By concealing the truth, I put a barrier between us. Being cherished as family was what I truly desired. Cindy stepped forward and gave her sister a hug. It will be different from now on. Let's act like true sisters. George and Martha joined, and the four of them had a long, silent embrace. They were warmly lighted by the nighttime panorama of Las Vegas beyond the window. After some time, George said in a low voice, "How can you forgive us today in the desert?" Judith stepped back a little and studied the features of her relatives. Self-liberation is another aspect of forgiveness. She grinned. Furthermore, we might not have arrived at this point if it weren't for today. But, Martha added, we did awful things. Indeed. Judith nodded. However, it is now in the past. What we do from now on is what counts. Cindy grasped the hand of her sister. I want to change, become self-sufficient, and do something on my own. I'll assist you. Judith said she would, but this time, as a sister rather than with cash. Once more, the four hugged. A fresh start seemed to be in the air, overcoming scars and misconceptions that date back years. A family moment of new beginnings. Numerous Las Vegas lights glowed like stars outside the window. They seemed to be relishing the start of their new adventure. Let's toast. The sound of glasses touching reverberated on the large patio. The crimson and orange sky around the table represented Judith's family, and the sunset that could be seen from her opulent California estate had perished. It has been a year since then. Martha declared with satisfaction that this Thanksgiving was unique. Her eyes sparkled with freshness, but her face was softer than before, and new gray hairs had grown in. Judith smiled and said, "We're grateful for our new beginning as well as Connect Life's IPO." George happily glanced at his daughter. He was now completely retired at age 63 and was enthusiastically coaching aspiring business owners based on Judith's experiences. I have a new purpose in life because of you. Cindy sat across the table looking confident. Over the previous year, she had undergone the biggest transformation as she battled her addiction to gambling. She had started Authentic Style, a fashion blog that was already seeing some popularity. Cindy stated joyfully, "I still can't believe my blog is getting such support. They're recognizing your skill." Judith gave her sister a nod. "You discovered that way on your own. I didn't force it on you." Cindy gave her sister a grateful glance. "Refusing your startup investment was challenging at first, but I'm happy I managed to do it on my own." "And you've just started out as an influencer?" "With pride," Martha said. George banged his glass softly throughout the dinner to draw the family's attention. "We have some exciting news, everyone." Grinning, Martha took her husband's hand. "I've earned my certification as a counselor," she muttered. "I'll be working as a family therapist with a focus on repairing parent-child connections starting next month." "Mom, that's fantastic." Judith was very joyful. "We abandoned you in the desert that day. I made the most significant error of my life." Martha's eyes filled with tears. "However, that event paved the way for me to assist other families." Judith was pouring dessert wine when she had an epiphany. "The Nevada Department of Transportation called me last week. For what purpose?" Cindy inquired. "Do you recall that roadway in the desert?" Judith grinned. "Someone wants to erect a little memorial after hearing our tale. Family reconciliation is what it's called." A dot. "They were all too affected to talk. Initially, I considered refusing," Judith went on. "However, I believed that others could find hope in our experience. What a fantastic concept." As twilight became deeper, George gave a profound nod. A quiet stillness fell over the four of them. There was no longer any stress or conflict. Instead, there was a calm climate of acceptance and understanding. "I never wanted to show up with my family," Judith remarked softly. "We ultimately realized that what I truly wanted was recognition for my job." As the first stars appeared in the night sky, Martha clutched her daughter's hand tenderly. Judith glanced at her relatives. After a protracted journey, they had at last truly become a family. In actuality, the trip that started the day she was deserted had turned out to be the most significant life turning point. Cindy whispered softly, "I'm not saying this just because it's Thanksgiving. However, I sincerely appreciate that we have been a true family for all time." Judith grinned. To their new relationship and future, the four raised their glasses once again.